All right, this story comes from Reuters. Trump to prepare a facility at Guantanamo for 30,000 migrants.
Here's your camps.
It is.
There's your camps.
Yep.
I mean, that was also something we talked about, right?
Yep.
We had a conversation about this. And, you know, one of the things that we initially thought was they were going to maybe use some of that land that they had already set aside before the election for camps in Texas. They had said they were going to build a bunch of things. But, you know, this all plays into the private-owned facilities that we have.
Yep.
This all plays into increasing a police state. This all plays into it's all the negative stuff that came with Project 2025. That's all really positive for Trump.
Yep.
Right? It's all the pros for him and the cons for us.
Yep.
And this is one of those moments where you're seeing a guy who hates immigrants in Tom Holman, who wants to do what he can to try to convince everybody that everybody's a dangerous immigrant. We had Christine Noem on the street this week taking a selfie of herself with a bulletproof vest on, saying getting dirt bags off the street in New York.
God,
she posted
I
that.
hate her.
So and maybe she just went and killed a dog after that. I'm not sure.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sure there's a dog somewhere she could kill. You know, say she gets somebody, she'd be like, get a dog I can strangle in here.
Preferably a puppy.
Yeah, I'd like a puppy.
I want a puppy.
Yeah, can we get a puppy in here? But, you know, so these people, they are all monsters. We knew they were monsters beforehand.
Yep.
They get brought in to do this monstrous act, and they're going to be creating this detention center. We're already deporting people, but they're going to be putting people in this detention center. And you know what? How does that bring down our taxes? What are our taxes? How is our taxes lower by turning this into a 30,000 migrant center?
Yeah.
How does that lower our taxes?
No, we're not saving a fucking dollar individually. Yeah. Nobody's effective tax rate is going to be reduced. I guarantee it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like maybe they'll make some changes around the margins for the millionaires and billionaire class
probably.
by extending the 2017 tax cuts, which were already a fucking blowjob to billionaires, right? So like, but your taxes as a W-2 guy, go fuck yourself sideways. You're not saving a buck.
Yeah.
You know, you'll especially not save a dollar because, you know, the prices of all of your goods and services are going to skyrocket.
Yeah, I mean, look at eggs right now.
Skyrocket.
Look at eggs right now.
All right, so one thing about Guantanamo Bay to recognize too is these are not U.S. citizens, and that's not in America.
Yeah, man. No,
how do you think they're going to be treated?
Yeah, and that's why they had it over there.
Yeah,
right. Like the reason why they created it. You know, gosh, we were talking about this in some of the earliest podcasts that we've done.
Yeah,
where we were like, what a horror that you can get taken there and you have no rights.
Yep,
because it's not the United States, and they treated it as such.
Look, you can see the groundwork for the mistreatment and the new legal labeling already taking place. What's one of the first things that happened is he signed an executive order declaring an invasion, right? Yeah. So what was the thing that we did with the people in Guantanamo Bay? We created a new legal definition which we called them non-combatant. We called them some bullshit like non-combatant detainees. Yeah. Something along those lines, like right? Yeah. But we created a new legal framework where we got to say that they're not prisoners of war because then they would be subject to the Geneva Convention. So we did not call them prisoners of war. We created a new legal framework. That new legal framework said you're not a citizen, you're not entitled to due process. You're not a prisoner of war, you're not subject to the Geneva Convention. You're this new third thing. We can stick you in Cuba and torture you.
We made it up.
We invented it. Those are all true sentences. Trump has declared an invasion at the southern border, declared an emergency from that invasion, will absolutely redefine these human beings, these migrant human beings, men, women, and children seeking a better life. He will declare them as some kind of third legal entity, right? They will not be refugees or asylum seekers or citizens. They will be something else. They will maybe be declared terrorists, Cecil.
Sure.
If they're part of an invasion, right? That would not be a legal stretch. Then he moves them to Guantanamo Bay. They are not citizens. They're not on U.S. soil. They have no rights of due process.
I want to look to see if I can find that name up because I was illegal enemy combatants.
Illegal enemy combatants.
Yeah.
So if you're part of an invasion, might you not be an illegal enemy combatant,
Well,
Cecil?
I'll tell you, they already don't have the same rules about due process that we do, right?
Right.
When you break, when they come in and they break immigration rules. So they already don't have the same rules that affect them. So yeah, we're in a weird spot. We're in a spot that's really, really difficult. And it's important to, I think at this point, it's important for us to do what we can to try to make sure that we help those immigrants around us that are around us and give to immigrant organizations and organizations that are going to be able to sue for certain things. My hope is that a lot of this stuff gets injunctions on it and it goes to court, and it takes a while for it to go to court, and it slows down for the first term of Trump's presidency enough so that we won't have to worry about it. That, like if they put an injunction on it and there's enough delays, just like what Trump did, right? Just like what Trump did when he was getting accused, he did all the delay stuff. If there's some way for us to create an injunction and then do some delays in order for it to stay as, because the judge will do something like, hey, this is hurting people, and we're going to not do that until we get a legal ruling that says yes. Well, there's other ways to slow things down, and you got to slow things down in the opposite direction, where things don't happen in the courts right away, just like what Trump did, so that eventually, he could be out of office and it won't matter.
It might not be the worst idea to prepare your attic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might not. I also want to point out for anyone prior to the election saying both sides are just as bad. Are they fucking really?
Are they really? Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
You still believe that?
Yeah.
Dumbass.
No, man.
You're wrong.
I think like we saw the writing on the wall, and there's going to be a lot of leopards eating faces. Yeah. Even people who, there's going to be people who are going to be picked up that are going to be, and it's not just inconvenience. Like one of the things that people will say, and I saw it on a comment thread this week where somebody said, what do I care if somebody's inconvenienced for a few hours? As long as they're American citizens, they can prove who they are. It's not a big deal. Jesus. And I thought to myself, it's like, yeah, that's said from somebody who clearly isn't ever going to be inconvenienced by this. But the fact of the matter is that you don't get representation when you're detained for immigration. So it's not like if you go to jail time, right, you'll get representation if you don't have a lawyer. If you don't have a lawyer, though, we have to provide one for you. That's how the system works. Right. Well, that's not how it works with immigration. They don't have to do that. So this guy was a citizen, but they never provided him with a lawyer. So he never was able to prove it. And he stayed in custody for 3 years.
Jesus fucking Christ.
He's an American citizen. And then they released him from prison. And they're like, fuck, we fucked up. Sorry, here's $80,000.
Oh my God, $80,000 for 3 years of his life?
Then they were going to give him $80,000. And then the government said, nah, we're not going to do that. And then he took him to court and he lost.
He lost?
Yeah.
He lost.
He lost. So
3 years of his life, he was kidnapped and held against his will for 3 years of his life.
And then he gets nothing.
Oh my God.
Nothing for the problem. So I realize that people want to make up this bullshit idea that it's just a little inconvenience. Why don't you be inconvenienced for 3 years for your life? Now, I know that's not the norm, right? But it can happen.
Jesus.
It can fucking happen. So this, and having more government enforcement in your life is not good. It's just not good, period. So even, and it's certainly, look, they're never going to come up to me and be like, show me your papers. So I'm never going to be inconvenienced by this, right? But there's a lot of people out there that'll be inconvenienced by this. Yeah, man. And it's not just inconvenience, it's hassled. It's psychologically injured, always thinking somebody's watching you, always thinking, always worried that if you go to the store, am I going to wind up in the back of some fucking thing if I don't have my passport on me? What kind of fucking country do we want to have? They think it's to make the streets safer. That's what they keep on lying about. And they keep on saying these lies over and over. It's to make the streets safer. They're picking up just regular old people. They're not just, a lot of these people aren't hardened criminals. And the hardened criminals, we already were going after anyway. Yeah, man. I think whenever I hear stuff like that, I can't help but think, God, if I got picked up, just Tom Curry, if I got picked up tomorrow and thrown in some fucking jail for 6 months or a year or 3 years, I'm the breadwinner. I'm the only breadwinner in my family. That's not just me that's inconvenienced. It's how are my kids going to continue to live in their home? Where are they going to get the money for food and housing and shelter and, school from? It's not just that guy. Everybody is connected to somebody. That's the other thing. We sort of
refuse to believe in our like microscopic viewing of these things. If you throw Tom Curry in jail, also like if you throw me in jail, it's not a safe place for me to be. And maybe something bad happens to me in a detention center because detention centers are not as safe. I don't know, maybe a global pandemic runs through a detention center like a fucking wildfire because that has happened, you know? Or maybe like some other person in detention has a problem with me. Like, it's not safe. It's not just stealing 3 years of my time. It's potentially devastating somebody's entire family.
Well, and it's not just that. Like, even just think of it's like a couple days. Let's say you're inconvenienced for a couple days or a day even.
Yeah.
You could lose your job over that.
Sure. Yeah. Many people.
Lose your job. What if you're on your last strike at work and they pick you up on the way to work and you're only an hour late?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's easy to look at that from the outside and be like, oh, it's not anything.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just a little inconvenience.
Yeah.
It can ruin somebody's life.
Yeah.